Our next slammer is a partner at Swartz Talaferro, Swartz in Goodove, PC. Since graduating from Virginia Tech and earning his law degree from William & Mary, he's practiced law on Hampton Roads for 30 years. His experience in criminal law was as a prosecutor, and his first experience in criminal law was as a prosecutor in the Norfolk Commonwealth's Attorney Office. But he left that position because his family demanded that he earn enough money so they could eat 3 meals a day. He is in court every day to help his clients tell their own stories. He's here tonight to tell his story. The pencil is mightier than the sword. Please welcome to the stage, Jeff Swartz. Clap for Jeff. Come on now.
I won't sing. But before I start, Tate and Elliot, that's incredible. Incredible. And your parents should be so proud of you. So boys, if by any chance you don't want to go back to Charlottesville, Gene and I will be glad to keep you here. But we've got to make a deal. Your folks have to take our kids home and fix them. And then we can talk about switching back. But great job. Great job. So, as Vince just said, I'm a lawyer. Let's get that out of the way first. There shouldn't be secrets between friends. And of course, as you heard, I started at the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. I was a prosecutor here in Norfolk. And after a number of years, I left and went into private practice and began working as a criminal defense attorney. Switch sides. And so there were a lot of people who questioned that. I'd made a lot of friends during my years as a prosecutor. I was close with a lot of people in law enforcement and the police department and the courts, probation, other prosecutors in our office and others. They all look at it as went over to the dark side. That's how they refer to it. And they questioned it. Why are you doing this? Don't do it. But I said to them, no, I want to represent people who have been charged with crimes. And notice, I don't say I wanted to represent criminals. I've been very fortunate over the past 20 years to only represent clients who all assure me that they've been wrongly accused. And that helps. It helps. So, but I will tell you, as a defense lawyer, there is, I don't know that I can describe the feeling when a person comes to you and they need your help and you take the case and you review the evidence and you believe in your heart that they are innocent. And these people, they're relying on you. Their freedom, their lives are in your hands, and it's a great responsibility, and it makes every day exciting. But I get asked all the time, as I'm sure every criminal defense lawyer does, how can you defend those people? It's a little odd when it's actually relatives of my clients asking me that, but it happens. You might be even more surprised to know, or more surprised at my career choice, this path that I chose in life, if you know that in fact I was a victim of violent crime when I was just a child. When I was 9 years old, I was stabbed right in the ass with a yellow number 2 pencil by William Cuffey. Now, let me explain. Let me explain. William and I were classmates. Mrs. Russell was our 4th grade teacher, and through most of the school year we had this friendly rivalry. Each of us wanted to prove who was the funnier kid in class. Well, it's 4th grade. What are the classic moves? You burping the alphabet, making someone in the cafeteria laugh so that milk comes out of their nose, and of course, what's the greatest thing that any 9 or 10-year-old boy can do? Gas. And ideally right in the middle of a group of 4th grade girls. So it's springtime and the end of the year is approaching, and there's still no winner. The crown's up for grabs, the pressure's building. One day I'm sitting at my desk and I see William Cuffey walking toward me from the front. His desk was just a few seats behind me in the same row. See him walking toward me, and he gives me this look and a little smile. And I can see that there's something in his mouth. His mouth is full. I can't tell what it is, but I can tell something's about to happen. And so I I try to stare him down. I use my best mental telepathy. Don't do it. Don't do it, man. Well, he keeps coming at me, and he launches this spitball at me. He must have been working on it for a half an hour. It was awful. And it splashes down right on my notebook. And the kids sitting nearby see it, and everybody is just speechless. Well, the gauntlet's been thrown down. I have to respond. Any self-respecting fourth grader would. But I've got no plan. How? Where? What do I do? Well, after that day, he wouldn't come near me in PE. He avoided me in the lunchroom. I got nothing. So it must have been a few weeks go by. And as happens every day, we come back from the lunchroom to our class, and Mrs. Russell releases all the kids, take a break, and go down to the restroom before we have to sit back down at our desk and focus on our studies. Well, elementary school, how many minutes in the day are there where you're not under the constant watchful gaze of an adult? How many places can you go that Mrs. Russell can't follow you? The boys' restroom. Well, you remember school. There were days, maybe entire school years, where you'd rather sweat bullets just holding it in until you could get home, rather than risking the barbarism of the school restroom. I mean, we're talking Lord of the Flies. It's civilization versus savagery. It's the rule of law versus anarchy. But there we go. We all head down to the bathroom. And of course, everybody wants to get to a stall. A stall is privacy, it's protection. And so we head down, and of course, all right, so let's set the scene. You go into the boys' room, and there's the one wall that has all the sinks on it, and the other wall is a row of urinals, and then just past the urinals are 2 or 3 toilet stalls. And they actually have doors on them. And again, it's privacy, it's protection. Those aren't just doors, they're shields. So we race into the bathroom, and I remember like it was yesterday. I box out John McCoy, I do a spin move around Danny Doak, I get into the stall, I close the door, I slide the latch, I've made it. I've got my stall. So, well, thank you. So I'm standing there facing the toilet, taking care of business, and I look down and I see that there's someone standing next to me outside at the urinal. And you know stalls, the partition on the side only goes down to about 2 feet above the floor, and if there's someone standing right there, you can see their feet. Well, I recognize those shoes. Nearly every boy in 4th grade wears tennis shoes, but there's one boy who wears brown wingtips. Very dapper, William. Well, I'm in a bathroom full of 4th grade boys, a jury of my peers. They'll decide who's going to win this contest, so I have to strike. But the only weapon that I have at hand is what's in my hand. I turn and pee on William's foot. Well, let me stop for just a second, folks. I haven't told this story to more than a dozen people, and we're all very close here now. I know I can count on you all to keep it between us, so I do that. And perhaps not my finest moment, and after a few seconds, William realizes what's happening, and he yells, and I see him shaking his foot, and then I hear him run out of the bathroom. Well, I have to tell you, it was a smashing success. I thought the guys were going to carry me out on their shoulders. I had marked my territory. I had won. But you see the flaw in the plan of this 9-year-old. I hadn't really thought through what might happen after I peed on William. So we go back to class, and of course, William is standing there at the teacher's desk, and he's told her what's happened. And I walk in and she just looks at me. And I say nothing. I make no incriminating statements. And so she turns back to William and she says, "I can't believe such an outlandish story." Now, Mrs. Russell was very Southern, very proper. She actually used words like outlandish. She tells us to go back to our seats. Well, this is golden. I know you're tired, but come on, keep. I wrote that and rewrote that 10 times. So she tells us to go back to our seat. William pulls up his pants leg. He says, "But my sock is wet." She shoos us away. Well, again, now the entire class has heard of my daring exploit, and I'm not getting in trouble. It just couldn't go any better. So we're heading back to our seats, walking down the row, and I'm turning to sit in my seat, and that's when William grabs that pencil and right through my corduroys. Well, I jump up, I scream. Mrs. Russell looks over, and she sees a pencil stuck in my right cheek. So she rushes me to the school nurse. We're going down the hall. The pencil's wagging behind me like a tail. I guess perhaps Ms. Russell thought that only a trained medical professional should perform such a delicate procedure as extracting a pencil from a kid's ass. So we get to the office, and of course my mother is called to the school, and eventually I'm standing there bent over, and it's my mother, my teacher, the school nurse, the principal, and the lunchroom lady who are all examining my backside. Unfortunately, the school nurse apparently just wasn't as well trained as Ms. Russell had hoped, and when she pulls the pencil out, the lead point breaks off and stays under the skin to eventually form this bluish, grayish spot that is there now apparently for all posterity. So my mother is beside herself. Her child has been maimed. Heads will roll. "Jeffrey, how could this monster have attacked you like this?" she asked me. Well, call it a moment of clarity, of redemption. I couldn't allow William to be punished when he wasn't even there to defend himself. And I fessed up. So perhaps it was at that moment that a defense lawyer was born. I'd like to think something good comes out of this episode. So, of course, we never speak of the incident again in my home. And I repress it completely. I'm always careful not to look in the mirror to see my backside as a reminder. And so I'm never going to tell this story again. It doesn't come up when I'm preparing my bar mitzvah speech. I don't use it in my college application essays. But years later, I met my wife, Jean, who's over there hiding underneath the table. We fall in love. I'm certain she wouldn't want me to tell you at what point in our relationship she first saw my bare bottom. But, you know, we're in love, and we're together one night, and we're planning our lives together, to be together for the rest of our lives happily, planning our family and our children. And she pauses and she looks at me and she says, "I just have one question. How did you get that blue spot on your butt?" That's my story. Thank you.